Hey everyone, this is Stevie Richards. Welcome to the Big Fitness Show, episode 20. If I tried to say 020 like 5 times, completely messed up. I did it right there. So at least my co-host here gets to see a good take. My co-host, Big Mike Behrens, looking
Yeah.
good with the new Studio Pro camera from
Ah,
PTZ Optics. Guess where mine is? Right here.
right there.
It doesn't do
Yep.
any good when it's not plugged in. Little tech tip for you. Make sure it's plugged
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I got it set up. Thanks, PTZ, for PTZ Optics. It's hard to say that fast. But I got it set up and I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So hi, everybody with the new camera. I hope you like it as well. And the quality's just as good. Stevie, how are you, buddy? It's good to see you. Good to chat
Good.
this week.
Can you do me a big favor? Can you say
Yeah.
PPZ Optics in episode 020 at the same time? Say it quick 3 times.
PTZ Optics, episode 02020. Yep. Didn't do it without a
Okay.
mess up.
Hey, I hope we're still around for 0220. That'd be a great
There
thing.
you go.
Like the episode 220. Now we're anticipating 1,000 episodes at that point.
Oh, sure.
But I want to start off that this episode 20, is all about motivation. And the first thing I want to say is you, my friend, motivate me so much to do better since even before we started the Big Fitness Show, watching and kind of observing what you did with X Endurance, being on the road, going to CrossFit, continuing to want to live out the dream of becoming a pro wrestler and staying a pro wrestler 20 years in. And even today, we have that talk every once in a while that you want to right the wrong, go back to the performance center, do that tryout, and completely crush it. These things inspire me to always do better. And it's just scratching the surface of the ways that you motivate me and inspire me.
Wow. I don't know what to say.
I always try to embarrass Mike on the opening, but this time we call it a swerve. I did
Oh,
the
man.
regular introduction, and it was comfortable, and thought I wasn't going to make him blush.
Yeah.
Here we are. Is there like a red? Where's the RGB on the camera?
Yeah.
Like we got to turn it down.
I gotta adjust the color on it. Yeah, no, thanks, man. Yeah, thank you. That's all I can say.
All true. I
Just
mean every
appreciate
word
it.
of it, though.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks for putting me over. I appreciate it.
well, you do,
Well,
man.
I could say the same, but it would be empty and shallow if I said the same things back to you right now. So I'm just gonna say you don't motivate me at all. Just kidding.
I aim to now that I'm tired of being so positive. I want to be a negative force in people's lives. I
There
want
you go.
to motivate them negatively, which is, I mean, that market's saturated. We don't want any part of that.
Yeah,
All in all seriousness, they
yeah,
can
that's
keep
true.
that. We'll stay in our little niche here. But yeah,
Sure.
motivation is definitely something that I believe, and this is where we're going to kind of dive a little deeper into maybe what it's like to run a fitness business or as a content creator in the background. And we do have dedicated episodes to that because I think everybody definitely needs some reminders of the very thin line you run as a content creator, your own business while managing everything.
Sure.
There's a lot of burnout going on and a lot of overwhelming aspects, at least in my part of the fitness business. And then, starting the new wrestling analysis content category, it's it's really something that I feel like I'm buried underneath everything and I'm starting to come a
Yeah.
little bit out. But the motivation of looking at from the fitness business, we went through that months or years of trying to find our way and we kind of crept out into the light. I'm using that example with the new content and trying to do everything, but it can be very overwhelming. It can take a lot of motivation to do anything away from you. Do you ever feel that way?
100%, man. And I think the topic of motivation is something that is it's a great discussion to have because it is so important to get started for anything that you're going to do. It's not just in the fitness world, it's in anything with your wrestling, the motivate, like with your wrestling analysis show, the motivation to do it, with me doing content, the motivation to do it. There's so much around it. And I think it gets misconstrued sometime what motivation is all about. It's like we just got to sit around and wait for the motivation or something to motivate us all the time. And I think motivation, there's good motivation, there's bad motivation. It's knowing how to leverage that in a productive way. But you can't just sit back and wait for motivation either, because if you only did things when you're motivated, you wouldn't do much, because I know I'm not motivated every single
Wrestlers
day.
are always waiting for the call. A good majority of that is not the way to do it.
Sure. Well, yeah, if you sit around and you wait and like you got to call, like, for example, to that exact point, the and you brought it up earlier about me wanting to get back and do another tryout and stuff. Like the last tryout, I wasn't motivated until I got the call, and I sat around and waited, and then I waited until I got motivated, and then I showed up and totally just crapped the bed, right? So like sitting and waiting for that motivation is just not realistic. It sounds cool, and you can watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos and listen to a whole bunch of stuff on motivation, and that might get you fired up for a few minutes, but does it last? And that's the thing that I think having a conversation around, like, both of us have ebbed and flowed and gone through times in life where we've been real motivated to do things, real motivated with our diet, real motivated with our fitness, real motivated with our business, and it had success. And then when that motivation wore off, it was like, okay, now we're back down and things are just kind of so and whatever. Well, how do we come back? And I think talking about how you've been able to leverage motivation to keep you keep you moving forward, but then how you got it back, what happened when you lost it. Same thing for me. If we can talk about that and share a little bit about how we've navigated this topic of motivation, I think it could be beneficial. And that's what the whole episode is going to be about today, is figuring out how we navigate those things.
Yeah, I
Sorry, I got
totally
to
agree
drink.
with everything you said. The social media aspect of it, I think maybe we go into that towards the end of this episode to talk about it, because it can create a lot of things. Obviously, you look at social media, it can create a lot of negative feelings about yourself, about it can shut down any motivation or any inspiration or any idea you think might be good. And you look at that and somebody's always going to be, it's
Sure.
just a weird thing. And then the motivation stuff, I guess we'll talk about it now.
Yeah.
Uh, right. No, but some of the motivation on Instagram or YouTube or any, it's usually Instagram reels where you have a guy voicing it over. It's usually Joe Rogan or somebody
Yeah.
with some music and Shutterstock footage or something, or story blocks. And they're talking about this stuff. And I understand it, but in a way, I feel like too, I hope we can create a different category of motivation, because it feels like we're coming out of that era of the David Goggins, go hard, run 100 miles, kill yourself, do whatever. And then the Joe Rogan is so far sometimes into certain, fad stuff. We talked about fad diets on a previous episode. These things can be pretty dangerous when you don't have the foundations. And I think motivation also, to have the foundation of, first of all, it's just, and this will be the point. I'll pass it back to you. We talked before the episode, we have great talks. We should record those actually. But about you're organizing your schedule for content creation, you're
Sure.
organizing your schedule for your brand to try to figure out, because maybe because you saw me, because I was drowning in content, just burying me, not knowing how to schedule stuff, do things. I'm still going through that. But when I saw you do that, I was like, wow, that's the first step in being motivated. It's completely clearing your head of all the junk
Mm,
and trying to formulate that plan. Then you can start having fun making content. That's
totally.
that's why I think it overwhelms people, because they don't know where to start, because they have 1,500 things in front of them, but not organized in a daily schedule like you showed me before we started recording.
Yeah, I think that's something that in the world of motivate, like it's key to when you get motivated to do something, is to have a plan and to set yourself up in that moment of motivation where you're feeling like, okay, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to get a clear plan for myself, to set up a structure to it. So you do have a foundation, because motivation, it comes and goes. It really does. You could wake up one morning and feel like you're going to take on the world, but then the next morning feel like crap and just want to stay in bed. And that's right,
Sometimes
right.
the same day.
Yeah, totally, totally. And like, it just, that kind of stuff is figuring out a way to leverage the time when you're motivated to set yourself up for success when you're not motivated. And so, we were talking, I was putting together a content schedule for myself of what to do. And that is, on the days where I'm just not motivated, I can look at my schedule and be like, oh, I just need to do this today and I'll feel like I had a productive day. And that will help me stay motivated or keep the discipline necessary to be successful, because motivation comes and goes. You know, when you look at social media, you brought up the social media aspect of it. You can watch a quick video, a quick reel, and get all jacked up and ready to go. But then what? Then what do you do? Right? Like, you don't have a clear plan. You don't have a foundation set. You don't have that direction to go. And motivation is awesome, but if you haven't taken the time to set the foundation and set the direction of where to channel that motivation, then it's going to be for naught. And so, like, with content production, making sure that you have a plan there. With your fitness, if you're motivated to tackle your fitness, cool, and you go out and crush a workout today and you work out for 2 hours because you're motivated and feeling good, but then you just totally wreck yourself so you can't work out tomorrow. And so being able to temper that motivation a little bit is a big thing. And I'm not trying to say that motivation is bad, because motivation is very critical to getting started. And but when you have that motivation, you need to make sure, and this is for me, this is what I found, is when I feel motivated, I need to do the things to get that win while I'm motivated, but then also set it up so that the next day the motivation isn't as important. And I need to, there's times where I'll sit in my office and I'll have just kind of a brainstorming planning session, and I feel really motivated in those times. And then I'll get the plan down and I'm motivated to crush it. And then the next day comes and it's like, all right, I don't really want to do this today. I'm just kind of blah. And I go back to just kind of floundering. But on those days is because I didn't give myself a clear plan. I came up with a bunch of ideas, but didn't have a clear plan to follow. Whereas 2 days ago, I put together a clear plan of how I'm going to tackle content and how I'm going to approach it. So then when yesterday came, honestly, like, I didn't really want to do anything yesterday. I didn't want to create content. I didn't want to put anything out. I didn't want to be on social media. I didn't want to I just was feeling like just having an introvert day,
Mhm.
but because I saw that I had a plan set when I was motivated, I executed on that plan because of the discipline to get it done. And then I was like, oh, I got all this done. And then it's funny, I felt motivated yesterday to do more after I did a couple of things. So it's just funny how that worked out.
There's a thing too that with both of us believing what we believe,
Mhm.
and this is the hardest part for me. The motivating days are good. It's almost like when I get motivated to do something, I'll do everything. It's almost like being
Right.
manic. I just
Sure.
go on a roll, and I'm like you, because I'm like, all right, tomorrow, the next day, I might not feel this way. So I better, just while I have the energy and I have the motivation and my head's clear, get it done. And just, my wife will tell me sometimes, and this is what I was going to say. Sometimes when you're not motivated and you want to sit there or you just want to watch videos and kind of like zone out, you have
Mhm.
to give, just like recovery for your body, you have to give every part of yourself some grace that way. And that's the hardest part for me, because
Yeah.
if I'm not working, if I'm not doing it, because especially being off for months, when I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm behind.
Sure.
If you're not, it's just a weird, weird thing. And then there's such a thing as making too much content and putting it out too often. But that's the thing about running your own business, especially a one-man show online, virtually with content, is I believe it's the ultimate grind to try to do
Sure.
all that stuff. It can really burn you out very easily.
Sure. Yeah, it
I
totally
don't
can.
wear that like a badge of courage. I don't think more work and working hard and saying you did 20 hours of work today, to me, that's just stupid. That's not motivating. It's like there's got to be a better way for you to do it.
Sure. Sure. No, I get that. And it is, you can easily burn yourself out with the motivation uh when you're really motivated to do it, and then you're like, but it was so easy then, and then the next day get instantly discouraged. There's a flip side to it. And it's with anything you're doing, with content production, uh with working towards your fitness goals, with eating healthier, like, you can feel motivated today to do it, and then the next day you be like, you get super discouraged because you're not motivated. And I was talking to a guy this past weekend where he was just saying it was hard. It was hard. It was hard to do it. It was hard to do it. And I was just like, yeah, it is hard. And you're not going to be motivated every day. You're not going to, but you just got to force yourself to do it. And finding a way to, like I said, set the foundation of a plan to follow and just do it. And to that point, sometimes when you just start doing it, and I told him, this is what I told him about going on a walk. I'm like, I know it's hard to go do it. Just go for 5 minutes. Just tell yourself, I'm going to do it for 5 minutes and I'll stop. But within that 5 minute period, now you found the motivation to keep going. And so there's ways that you can trick your mind into finding the motivation if it's not there. You know, the piece about, hey, I'm just going to do it. I'm just like, if you got to go to the gym, tell yourself, hey, I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to do 5 minutes and then I'm going to leave. But by the time you get to the gym, you're already there. You do your 5 minutes and you're like, I'll just keep going because I'm here. Or if you have a home gym, go out in the home gym and say you're just going to get started. And then by the time you get started, you're going to create that motivation in yourself to continue to move. And there's little tricks like that that I think work. I know for me, sometimes in the mornings, if I'm up all night with the kids and I didn't sleep all night long, I'll still get up and I'll tell myself, I'm just going to go get on the bike and do a little bit on the bike. But then when I get on the bike, it's like, I'm out here already. I might as well lift too. So then I lift. And then while I'm lifting, I'm like, I might as well do some core work, And so it just is like a snowball effect of the motivation. So that's one little hack that I've used to get myself motivated when I don't feel motivated. What about you? What do you do? Do you do anything?
Well, it may make people not want to work out or do anything like kind of remedial like we do with the business, but we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
So that's the one thing that makes me like, okay, I might not even be here tomorrow to do this. So let me do it today because there's a certain thing, and then that morphs into trying to create a quality video because it might sound morbid, but like if this is the last video that I'm ever going to make, I should really try my best to put it out there. And am I going to put out something that people think is like the classic clickbait, destroying careers and crushing and doing? Dude, I don't want that. I don't want a part of that content category. I'd rather have something to say, oh, he was really cool and respectful, and that was fun. And I could tell that's how I would want to leave this world. And like I said before, it's still kind of fresh in my mind with what happened,
Sure.
shit, it was only a couple months ago. It wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago. But
Yeah.
what happened to me really set it up to where I don't want to waste another second of my life doing that. But let's talk about that because people might think, well, of course, that's an outlying thing and that's a life or death situation. I still wasn't motivated yesterday to make the analysis video for Patreon until 2:30 p.m. I wanted to do it at 10 a.m., but I was just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And then I went out by the pool, let me get some air, let me get some sun. Maybe I'll feel like I have more energy after that. I had less. And then something hit me at like 2 o'clock. It was like, dude, you got to get it out. It's got to go out and be up on Patreon Friday morning. What are you waiting for?
Sure.
Literally felt the kick in the ass, got up, got it done in under an hour. And then I had energy after that at the completely wrong time of the day to have energy around 3:30 or 4 because we get ready for bed around 6:30. So
sure.
yeah, I'm ready to go again and wind down. And then, just a side note on that, then you run into a dangerous point of doing things like that outside of where your biological clock. Me, the mornings are the best time to be motivated.
Sure.
Then the afternoon, it's like, and then mid to late afternoon, it's like, forget it, you're done.
Yeah.
So I think people need to know when they're most productive because when you're going to be most productive is also when it's going to be easiest to be motivated to get productive.
That's a good tip right there. Yeah. Figuring out when you're
accident.
No, that was intentional. I would agree with you that figuring out when your most productive time of the day is a great way to figure out to align with your motivation so you can get some things done. But like you said, you weren't motivated and then it just kind of hit you in the ass and you're like, well, I'm gonna die someday, and I don't, like that's a huge motivating factor. It's a I struggle with that, using that as a motivation because of the morbid thought that it is, like it's not a fun thought to have, but it is a good perspective to continue to keep at the forefront of like, hey, you get one shot at this. This can continue to motivate you. It could be discouraging too, and you could go come totally the other way and be like, ah, screw it. I what do I care if I get it done? I could die tomorrow. But
You can
it's
do like a hundred super evil things because I'm going to be gone tomorrow anyway. Don't do any of that, please.
yeah. So like, but if you channel that in the right way, and I think just having that perspective of attacking things in a way of like, okay, this is my shot to do this. And then I think motivation builds when you can attack one thing and do it well and execute on it well, then your motivation to do the next thing will build. And then it can continue to go. And it's figuring out that way to snap yourself out of it, to keep that healthy perspective. But it really comes down to, I think, is figuring out why you're doing what you want to do. People talk a lot of times about find your why and what's your why and what's your reason for doing it. And really dialing in what your why is for all the things that you do helps. And if you don't know what your why is, then it's hard to keep your motivation all the time. And so like for me, my why is an easy one. It's my wife and kids. Everything I do is to create a better life for them, for my family, so my family is my why. And I look at the time freedom that I've been able to create with my career choice, the ability to be home and work from home, have a home gym, have all these things. So I get to maximize all of my time with my wife and my kids. It's a real good motivator to see that, hey, if you don't do this work, you're jeopardizing that time with your kids and you're never going to get that time back. You're jeopardizing that time with your wife and you're never going to get that time back. And so because of really hanging on to that why, it drives me to execute on all the things that I need to do. And I think for anybody, if you don't have a wife, if you don't have kids, if you don't have that very clear, and maybe you do have a wife and maybe you do have kids and maybe they're not your why, maybe they're not, but really figuring out what that is, that's like, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I motivated to do this? Like in my wrestling career, the why was always, I want to be a WWE superstar. That was always why I wanted to be a wrestler. And that was always what motivated me to do it. And when I didn't let other things and negative self-talk and all this other kind of junk get in the way, I was really motivated and moving in that direction. And it's when I lost track of that why and lost the motivation that kind of petered out for me. But still, no matter what your goal is in life, if you're trying to get healthy, if you're trying to lose weight, why do you want to lose weight? Really take some time and ask yourself that question. Maybe get a friend. This is a tip that I didn't come up with, I heard somewhere. Get a friend and have them ask you, well, why do you want to do that? And have them ask you that like 10 times and just continue. And if you say, well, I want to lose weight because I don't want to be fat. Well, why? Because I look silly being fat. Well, why? Well, why? And really dive deep into, well, what is it that really makes you want to make this change in your life, or really makes you want to be better or do different? And that, holding on to that why, is a huge motivating factor that you can always tap into, you can always go back to, and really not trick yourself, but use that as the motivation you need every day to hang on to your why. Get a piece of paper, carry it around in your wallet, carry it around and look at your why every day. I have a picture of my wife and my kids on my phone that's my screensaver, and every day I see my why. Obviously I'm with them all the time too, but anytime I'm feeling yeah, exactly. That's your why, like it's just hanging on to that and figuring out what that is for you. And it's different for everybody, but hanging on to that is huge for motivation.
There's a little bit of an asterisk next to that though, when you say have somebody ask you why or communicate your motivation or try to tell
Mm-hmm.
others. You got to pick the right people to do that too.
Totally.
Because there's nothing, if you tell, hey, there's a famous thing about like when you want to do something, you really want to accomplish something, tell as few people as possible or don't tell anybody. I mean, there's one or the other, but you have to be very careful because nobody's ever going to, outside of people to get it and want you to succeed, you're always going to have people playing the devil's advocate. Like
Totally.
wrestling. Let's talk about wrestling. If I was never close with my family, my parents, or my siblings. I was never close with them. And it always bothered me. But I believe in my heart, I believe God set that family structure where we were all kind of doing our own thing and not close for me to really be successful and have what it takes to make it mentally in wrestling,
Sure.
mentally and emotionally, because there were nights where I came home and I'm like, what am I doing? And when I said, what am I doing? If there was the wrong person within earshot of hearing that, they were going to be like, you don't have to do this. Is it really worth getting hurt every night? Is it really worth, you broke your neck in your 20? I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But if there was a voice in my ear, or two voices, parents, telling me every single time, like, you're killing yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have came out the other end and had you as a friend, had the co-host, had the big fitness show. I would have nothing today because you know what would have happened? Also would have been, why do you need to leave the neighborhood? Why do you why do you even need to leave the house? You can
Yeah.
save your money and I needed to live in a car. I needed to be homeless. I needed to, like you said in that clip you put up, I needed to pay my dues.
Yeah.
That was my motivation. Now I'm in it. I got to see it through now. And I had
Sure.
nobody telling me saying, oh, no, you don't. You can stop. And that's the danger. And that will kill anybody's motivation and snap of a finger.
Amen. I cannot tell you how much that hits me in the heart right now, because that is 100% something that I have dealt with for years. And it does kill your motivation real fast if you talk to the wrong people about it. And I would echo what you just said about make sure you know who you're talking to. And one thing that I've realized is, like, you and I have become friends. We have similar goals and we have similar drive and similar uh desires, and we're working towards similar things. And so I feel like I could talk to you about something and have a real conversation, and you would give me a real perspective, and I would value what you're saying because we're on the same wavelength and we get it, right? But then I can go talk to other people in my life that don't have the same drive, don't have the same goals, have no idea what professional wrestling is about, have no idea, think it's silly, all these kinds of things, think the content creation, being a YouTuber is dumb, right? And so I really have adopted this. If you don't have the lifestyle that I'm after or the life that I'm chasing, I'm not going to take your advice. I'm not going to listen to you or go to you for advice on how to do things, because you don't have the life that I want. And so why am I going to take advice from somebody who, you know, uh, is not successful, doesn't have the life that I want, has no real fitness goals, has no drive to be an entrepreneur or to build a business or to do anything there? Why am I going to take advice there? And that, so to your point, be careful who it is you talk to, because they can kill your motivation so fast. And that whole thing of you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, if you get around a bunch of people that are losers, you're going to be a loser too, and you got to challenge yourself to get in the room and get around people that are driven and want to do more. And I'll be honest, I spent some time around losers, and I let myself become kind of a loser in a sense of, like, that's not who I wanted to be, and it wasn't what I wanted to get to. And so the power of that, from a lack of motivation, lack of working for anything, is huge. So thanks for bringing that up.
Well, yeah,
Tugging on my
I almost made you
heartstrings.
cry. Now you're almost making me cry with it. My heart hurts for you because I've been there, and we've all been one of those people too, either in
Sure.
our own minds. I've been very careful over the past few years, maybe a little bit longer, to have a completely different perspective. And it comes actually after I told the story about the kid Anthony Green, who took a picture of me before he was
Mm,
a wrestler, when he was just a little kid, and the experience he had with me and whoever else that day in the WWE at the WWE appearance or whatever it was that I met him, that stayed with him to want to become a wrestler.
Mm.
So when I met him, it really, I already had the idea, but that solidified it. That just final nail in the coffin. This, when I'm looking at this kid, I said, my God, number one, if I ever deterred anybody from living their dream, I feel truly horrible about that.
Mm.
And if I did from this point on, when someone tells me something, I'm never going to crap on their dreams, their motivations, their goals, or anything. If anything, I'm going to be the one person that's going to say, well, yeah, why not you? And I always tell my wife that it's got to do it, whether it's a YouTuber, a fitness brand, her voiceover work, whatever she's doing, somebody has to do it. Why not you? And that's one thing you need to tell yourself each and every time. But well, three of the five people I spend the most amount of time with are cats. Is that they can be pretty negative at times. They can kill your dreams. Your dreams of getting up off the couch.
No wonder you can be a prick sometimes.
Dreams of, yeah, I got to knock that thing off the table for no good reason. But
oh shoot, that's
man, the whole thing with people are, and what you said, I have to just echo that. You know, Mark Merrill has a famous saying, people are like elevators. They'll either bring you up or bring you down. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's really what it is. And that's why I think after a while, I realized, man, I really do like being an introvert and having nobody or the least amount of people around me, because, and it creates quality people you want around you, but also you have enough doubts and insecurity in your own mind and heart as it is. You don't need to bring more in to talk you out of it. And that's really what I've carried, everything. And here's another motivating thing. And let me know about what you think about this. Most people are motivated. We'll go back to social media. Comparison is the thief of joy. I know that I got that saying. You're looking at people on social media, you're looking at YouTubers, you're looking at all these other people, and you're going to try to mirror their life, thinking it's perfect, thinking it's great, where they could be the most miserable people ever, which usually turns out to be the case.
Sure.
What I found success with wrestling, and not all of it was sexy or fun or anything like that, but I look at what everybody else was doing on the roster. They were going in this direction. I'll go this direction. I'll do the exact opposite, because there's a market. Everybody's over here in a saturated end of the market. Nobody wants to do this. So I'm going to corner it. Same thing with, what we're doing, big fitness brand. Everybody likes to overcomplicate it, make it sound complicated. Everybody wants to, it's show off time. They want to be like, we know all this stuff about health, fitness, nutrition, and everything. There's no fitness podcast out there talking about it on a 10, see, I can't do it. The 020. There we go. On a basic remedial, like fitness 101 level.
Sure.
And that motivates us. And also it's a motivational thing to be like, oh, I forgot about that. That's very basic. I need to start doing that again. So that's the end of my tangent. I just feel like there's so many minefields that you have within your own mind. Why go out and seek out more people that are going to make you want to step on a landmine and explode?
Totally. And I think that's part of a point of that conversation is don't look to others for your motivation. Don't rely on other people to motivate you. Don't get your motivation solely from other people. Like I'll watch a motivational reel or a motivational YouTube video and they're cool and they'll get you fired up, but you're relying on someone else to get you motivated to do what you want to do. And then that person has to be there all the time. And so there's a good and a bad there, and you've got to find what works for you, but you can't solely rely on someone else to get you motivated. For a couple of the reasons that we just laid out, is if you talk to the wrong person, they're going to demotivate you more than they're going to motivate you. But then, there's so many like nuances, I guess, to this whole motivation piece. If you tell the wrong person and they crap all over your idea, you could channel that motivation into be like, screw you, dude, I'm going to do this anyways, you know, and then shove it up their ass. And so like, there's a whole different angle of motivation that can be there. It's just making sure that you're good with you and you know your why and you know your motivation and you can motivate yourself instead of relying on other people. There is a healthy bit. I personally have a healthy bit of motivation to say screw you to some people. I just do. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to say who they are, but there's some people that I want to say screw you. I did it anyway, you know? And so there's that piece of it that's healthy. But if I relied solely on that to keep me motivated, that would be an unhealthy thing. And then I would still have to, you go to a deep, dark place if you focus so much on that, because the reality is, those people that you're using for that purpose, they probably don't even care. They don't realize, they're not thinking about you. You don't matter to them at all. And so, but if you can use that to channel yourself in the right direction, that's a good thing. And then on the flip side of that, there's some people in my life that I use them as motivation in a very positive way to like my wife. I want to make her proud of me. I want to, you know, do the right thing for her. I want to make her happy. And I want to do things to make our family better and to help our family be in a better situation and all this kind of stuff. So there's the flip side of it, but all of that relies on me. And that's the one, this would be slight bit of a tangent, not really a tangent, but a thought that I have that comes up all the time. What's the one common thing in everything that's ever happened to you?
What's the
Good,
one?
bad,
Yeah, okay.
indifferent,
Wow.
like
Riddles,
there's
that's like a riddle of Sphinx type thing, right there.
yeah, you know, but like think about it, like your whole life, you can't choose your family, you can't choose, you know, your parents, you can't choose all this kind of stuff, you can't choose the things that other people do, but the one common theme in every aspect of your life is yourself. And if this happened, or if this happened, if it was good, if it was bad, what was the same thing? And so if these things continue to happen to you, you can use that as very demotivating, demoralizing, that you're just, oh, I just got bad luck, where you can realize you're in complete control of the things that go on in your life. And the only common denominator for everything that happens is you. And so the only thing that you can control is yourself. And if you continue to change, or if you work to change, and if you work to make yourself better, then the situations that happen are going to be better, because you're going to continue to bring in better things into your life. So you choose to control what you can control. You can control your motivation by finding that why, to get you on that path towards living healthier, towards being better, to being stronger, to whatever your goal is. But you are in control of that, no one else. So looking to other people for your motivation is not going to work ultimately.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think a lot of times that we're being in the wrestling business for both of us, that's been like, it gives you a lot of mental toughness and discipline, because if people don't understand what you're trying to do, which there's people that probably throughout our brands just laugh it off and don't understand. And, you know, for what we do too, and the way the fitness industry is, especially on social media and YouTube, it is very flashy. It is very sexy. It is very much filled with false promises. But that's what converts sales, and that's what makes these influencers money. And wrestling's kind of the same way. Because if you say, hey, I want to have a fitness brand and I want to do this and I want to do it for the very beginners and the basics and this and that, the egos of other people within the industry laugh at you because, oh, you're not going to be deemed an expert, and you're not jacked, and you're not on, you know, a ton of gear, and you don't look like an action figure.
Sure.
You could tend that, but when I get those reactions now, and this comes with maturity and age, because young people, I was a young guy trying to please everybody, trying to do this and that and the other thing, and then being unhappy because they ended up laughing at me anyway.
Sure.
Now when they laugh, now when they look sideways, now when they roll their eyes, it's like, I'm onto something and I'm going to corner it because they don't understand it.
Sure.
So that's one person that's not going to compete with me.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I think finding a peace with yourself and being confident in who you are and being motivated by yourself. I think that's where that self-awareness, self-reliance, you come back to things, and it's so easy to see other people and like, oh, well, they're in complete control. And like in the wrestling business, you can say, well, the booker's in complete control of the future of my career and all this kind of stuff. But that's not true. That's not true. If you work hard and you put in the time and you put in the work, there's a little bit of truth to the fact that, yeah, if the booker just hates you, okay, cool. But you're ultimately like, what can you do to get the booker to like you? What can you do to, not that you got to kiss ass or anything like that, but what could you do differently?
Well,
Because
there's
there's
some
got to be a
people in
reason.
wrestling you don't want to like you because they're complete friggin'
Well,
scum.
sure. Totally,
So,
totally. But and that's a unique thing to people in the wrestling industry, but in the fitness world, in things that go on in your career, in your job, you could say your boss doesn't like you. Well, what have you done to get to that point? What could you do to change how you're behaving instead of waiting for the other person to just come around or to like you or to whatever? What could you do differently that you can control and focus on making yourself more resilient and being more aware of who you are so that you bring more to the table and so that you can then reap the rewards? Because the reality is, if you put in the work, you keep positive, you stay motivated because of yourself, because of your why, and you figure that out and you're confident in what you're going towards, and you don't let all the noise from everybody else come in the way and block you. If you just be patient, be consistent, you're going to get results. That boring consistency brings exciting results. That's legitimate. It is true. If you just stay consistent with it, you will eventually get the results that you want through attrition, because you're just going to outlast everybody,
yeah.
So just keep going. But there's that motivation to block out all the outside crap that will be huge on your journey forward.
A lot of things too. Now, what you said is absolutely true. And I'm speaking from experience with this, because I have that reputation, like I didn't reach the potential that I could have in my wrestling career. I didn't get as far as I should have, or I failed, or whatever it might be. Or even,
Sure.
I wear it as a badge of honor that I could work with all these different talents and make them look good and put them over. I think there's a special skill set, and it's translated into the wrestling analysis content. The point
Totally.
I'm making is that let's just take WWE, for example, outside of a couple of instances for a short time. Most of the time there, I never really got pushed. I never really got much opportunity. When I did, I made the most out of it. I did whatever I could. I never, and the thing that bothered me the most was never getting booked enough, because the more you're booked, the more money you make. So, but I kept working hard and I kept myself in shape. I kept, like you said in your reel this morning, I can't control booking. I can't control how long a match is. I can't control, even in some ways, the finish, although they would give me that latitude with a lot of people. And there's a certain amount of trust. Do it your way. We know you know what you're doing. Very
Yeah.
cool. I like that. But my work ethic in wrestling, especially in WWE, never provided results at the time, never produced the results for the work I put into it. But we're talking about foundation once again. The foundation of my work ethic that I instilled in myself when I was in WWE and in wrestling, well, here I am now.
Yeah.
I just got to organize it. I got to line it up. I got to make it efficient, but I'm going to show up to work every day, because there's no situation and there's no circumstances that I have to fight anymore. I don't have to fight another opinion. I don't have to fight the guy with the pencil. I don't have to fight a limited amount of minutes or hours on a wrestling show. I have free reign to do whatever I want. And if
Sure.
I screw up and fail, there's also nobody to blame.
Sure.
Now, being essentially a retired wrestler, I've tried to pass that along to other guys and girls and younger talent. I have a friend I've been talking to. It's got to be about this for well over a decade, still in the bubble, still trying to get bookings on indies, still trying to get more bookings and more money from he's in a TV promotion right now. They've kept him at the same pay for 3 to 4 years. The indies kept him at the same pay for 3 to 4 years. And I just keep telling him, could you imagine what you would do if you put the amount of effort that you're putting into this into something you can actually control the return of?
Sure.
And,
Sure.
and the funny part is, in the bubble, and people in it too, they'll listen, they'll get it. You show them all the examples of what you're doing, and they listen to you. And then at the end, they go, yeah, but I'm just going to try to squeeze everything I can out of this thing. I go, well, just fucking be proactive. Start this now. Sorry, excuse my language. I'm
That's
sure
fine.
you've been there. Yeah, you can do that, but what happens when
Yeah,
it all the faucet runs dry? And in wrestling, trust me, it did for me, and it
sure,
does for you.
sure,
It'll all dry up at once. It might come
sure,
back, but there's
sure.
no way of knowing. So that
Yeah,
when you're at the ebb and flow or the roller coaster, and your money and bookings go to the low point,
yeah,
what do you have?
yeah.
I don't know. And there's a strange thing too with people's minds. If you act like you don't need it and you have options, they're going to pay you more.
Oh,
They're
sure.
gonna pay- It's weird.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know if
No, I get it.
I know it makes sense to you. I don't know if it makes sense to people out there, but you may be in a situation with a bad boss, bad work environment, bad this and that. But if you show up into every day and work hard despite all that,
Yeah,
your life will be so much easier when you do find a very
right.
good, positive environment or a groove where you just say, screw it. I'm working this hard. I'm going to work for myself, and you're
Yeah.
off to the races.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying, for non wrestlers and just for everybody, like it's having a piece of who you are, and for wrestlers too. Like if you know you're putting in the work and you know you're giving it your all, and you know you're doing everything that you can to be successful, and you feel good about it, and you have that peace of mind in your heart, then it's a lot easier to deal with things like that. It's a lot easier to then bet on yourself, to then take that step into doing something that you can control. And so in the wrestling industry, 100%, there's so much ego involved and all this kind of stuff. But if you know you're working hard and you know you're putting in as much effort as you possibly can to get to where you want to go, if somebody else doesn't see that, that's fine. You feel good about who you are. And then that translates into the normal job world, I guess, of it's if you're working hard in your job and you're doing everything that you can to be successful and you get passed over for a promotion or whatever it may be, you know that you're doing everything that you can and you're controlling what you can control. So there's a peace of mind that comes with that. And there's a motivation of like, okay, I'm doing everything I can, but maybe I can do more. And so then I'll try to do more to better my situation. And then that thing, maybe you got passed over for that promotion. Well, there's some motivation that comes with that because now that maybe motivates you to do your own thing or to go find a new job or to go into a different area or to try something different. So there's motivation in all scenarios. It's just being aware of what happens and how you can leverage that for your motivation to push you to that next thing, to drive you to that next thing, and how you can channel all of that. But it really starts with finding your piece and then your core motivation, so then you can leverage everything else to just drive you even further.
Yeah, and what you said too, if you show up and you make them right, the boss, the booker, whatever it is, if you're not in shape, if you're not working hard, then they're
Yeah,
just right about you. But my
yeah,
motivation in WWE especially would be I want to be in such good shape. I want my work to be as flawless as possible, no matter what the spot is. If I ever have a promo or if I ever have a talking thing or if I ever have where I can display emotion, whatever it might be, I'm going to do all that to the best of my ability. And maybe this is, once again, this is where I'll show you, you'll see comes up. Basically, my motivation for a short time there was to make the people in power look as stupid as possible for not doing anything with me.
sure, sure, sure. And
But
that
then the side effect is you carry all that work ethic and that pride in your work way past any amount of time you'll ever be in a wrestling ring.
totally, totally. And then that translates into something else you want to do. And you learn so much on how to do things there that it turns into now, however many years later, you have learned to motivate yourself and to not be
Yep.
burdened by that, whatever, and just keep moving forward. And so like, yeah, so like there's so much
I
in
want to
those
get this last
moments
point in
where
here
you,
too. This is,
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm
no, it's
glad
fine.
it happened and I'm glad nothing came easy. I'm glad I wasn't a second or third
Yeah,
generation wrestler. I'm glad I didn't have a clue. I learned everything the hard way, and some things were really hard to learn physically. I would be
sure.
taught lessons in the ring. If I didn't have that, think about it. And I'm going to use the vibe board as an example, the analysis thing, because it's not easy to set that up. It's not easy to use. It's clunky. I got to do workarounds. I got to have problem solving skills to do it.
Mm,
If I was babied and coddled and pushed and always told how great, I already know where I'm going with this.
mm-hmm.
If I was told how great I was every single second of the day and
Yep.
nothing I ever did was wrong and I never really needed to learn anything and I didn't need to do anything myself because, hey, there's just a mark over here who will do it for you. Like most of the boys do today with their podcasts and other things, because if they had to produce it on their own,
Sure.
you've seen it already, right? The
Sure.
podcast is over because
Yeah.
the the co-host or producer's not there. And I'm not dogging them,
Sure.
but it's just really set up. It's set up to not want to take control and not want to have that there. If I had had the same push and notoriety and consistently told how great I was, I wouldn't have the motivation, going back to the theme of the show. I wouldn't have the
Mm,
motivation to figure it out and do it on my own. I would never make a video. I wouldn't build the website. I wouldn't do any of the stuff. And now it's great. I'm at the point now where if it's a website problem or something else, I ask you, because now
sure.
we lean on each other
Sure.
for
Sure.
our skill set to learn. So
Yeah.
I'm glad. I wouldn't change the rough ride that I had in those 30 years, because it,
Sure.
it really did. What is it? Iron sharpens iron, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It literally formed every bit of motivation, determination, and also wherewithal in my own, you know, kind of need to do everything myself.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if we get to a point in our business where we need to delegate authority, there's going to be a problem. But but other than that, I know it's another tangent, but I'm just very thankful that we needed to do it all ourselves and we didn't rely on the fake push of wrestling to
Sure.
to define us.
Sure. Yeah. No, and I think what you're saying there, and to just offer kind of a final thought for me on this motivation piece and all this kind of stuff is everything in your life that happens to you can be a motivator and can drive you in one direction. And it's figuring out and knowing what it is that's important to you and what your why is to drive you to that, and then how you leverage all those things. And if you look back on everything in your life, you can use those as different motivating factors at different motivating times. And it's knowing how to process that, knowing how to channel that so that you can actually stay motivated every single day, and don't look at the things in the past that were negatives or positives or anything like that. These were lessons, and they were all learned, and you learned, and it made you who you are now. And like that's why, like, I don't regret a lot of things, because I wouldn't be the man I am today if I didn't have those things. So I'm grateful for those, as much as they might have sucked, or things at the time sucked that I didn't want to go through, or stupid mistakes, whatever. I can have a sense of gratitude for those, that then makes me motivated to never do that again, to be better, to be a better man, to do all this kind of stuff. So the motivation piece of this, it all comes down to, I think, having a peace of mind and having perspective, knowing your why, and then knowing what you want and what you're working towards. And then when you've got those things, you can bulletproof yourself in a way to all the outside noise and to all the things and distractions that can be demotivating. So if you can keep focused on those things, I think moving forward, you're on the right path.
I can't end this episode any better, so I'll let you take us out. Thank you.
All right, cool.
Those are three points that'll keep your life pretty simple and moving forward. Great stuff.
For sure. For sure. For sure. So I hope that helped everybody today. I know it helped me. It definitely, I feel right now motivated for this episode. Genuinely, like, it sounds cheesy, but I do feel motivated to continue to keep going and just bringing as much value as we can with the show. I mean, that's our goal here, is to just bring value with the Big Fitness Show. Yes, it does delve into non-fitness things sometimes, but overall it's about fitness for life, and everything falls into that fitness category. And that's what we're just going to continue to bring to you. So thanks for tuning in this week, everybody. As always, please like, subscribe, share the show, help us get the word out. We want to help more people. And if you can share the show, that would be awesome. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. leave a review on the podcast platforms. Totally love those. We read those. We definitely pay attention to them. Comment on the YouTube show. Follow Stevie on social media. Follow me on social media. Subscribe to my channel if you would, that'd be great, because I'm trying to build that up a little bit. Give me a few more subscribers. That would be awesome. A little selfless or shameless plug there. But yes, as always, thanks for tuning in to the Big Fitness Show for myself and Big Stevie Cool, Medium Stevie Cool. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.